Hi, it's Dave Mattson. Welcome to the How to Succeed podcast, a podcast designed to get you to the top and to stay at the top. I've asked some of our worldwide trainers who just excel in helping organizations and people scale to talk to their guests about what does it take to succeed. And we're going to focus in three areas which we call the success triangle: attitudes, behaviors, and techniques. So we're going to peel back the onion and really understand how people think, how they act, and how they behave to get to the top of their game to help you get there too. Let's listen in.
Welcome to the How to Succeed podcast. My name is Brian Jackson. I am a proud member of the Sandler Network. And with me, I have my friend, Sabine Gedeon. Sabine and I have known each other for many years. I'm just going to go say that we both started our businesses around the same time. So she's been by my side through the thick of it. So Sabine, welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Excited to be here.
Sabine, why don't you start by telling the audience a bit about yourself and how you help people?
Yeah, so I serve right now as an executive advisor and a speaker, and I run a professional development firm that's really focused on helping individuals, organizations, and professionals, entrepreneurs specifically, around up-leveling their leadership and certainly their network through social capital. That's what I've been doing now for probably about the last 7 years since I've been in business. Prior to that, I was in HR, in traditional corporate environments. Loved what I did, still centered around helping people become the best versions of themselves. And now I get to do that on a regular basis in my own company.
And that's why this topic I thought was really, really interesting. The topic being relational authority and the power to influence people internally. Sabine, tell us a bit about what that means and why it should be important to the people listening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's influence, right, at the heart of it. And when you are in any organization, no matter what your role is, and especially if it's in sales or HR, you have to build those influencing skills really, really early. And so I feel like this topic is even more important now because of the competing priorities that many organizations or people in organizations are facing, and being able to, one, get people on board and or help redirect when necessary, when there are a lot of competing priorities, is a key skill to have, especially in the market today.
Yeah. I notice in my world, Sabine, that people come into our programs to learn how to be better consultative salespeople, but often they'll be working with a client who has a very specific need that they have to then go and broker internally and get folks internally to back them up. And so they find themselves having even sometimes a tougher time influencing people internally than they do influencing people externally. So any thoughts on comments on that?
Yeah. And I think that goes to, regardless of where you're sitting, knowing who your audience is. And your audience is not necessarily the person who is making the final decision. And so as a salesperson, HR, wherever you sit in the organization, really understanding that, business, I love to say business is the language of people. And when you can understand how to relate to people, how to understand what they're with them, like I like to call it, the what's in it for me is, that makes you invaluable, not only to the individuals that you're serving, but also to those who you're also trying to influence.
I love that. See, we in Sandler love acronyms, right? So you just threw out the first acronym. I know you've got another acronym, at least one more to share with us today. I know Mike Crandall, if he's listening, he's going to love that. But why don't we start this? We like one acronym, and that's BAT, behavior, attitude, and technique. I like to tell my clients that we're always trying to increase our batting average, and that's our behaviors, our attitude, our technique. We'll use that acronym. And in this case, we talked beforehand. We'll start with A for attitude. So when it comes to influencing people internally, what's the mindset that we need to have, Sabine?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing the word mindset into that, because whenever I teach, I say mindset is 80%. Our success in any endeavor is at least 80% mindset, 20% strategy and execution. So before you even think about having a conversation with anyone, you need to ensure that you have the right mindset. The other piece to that is around mindset is the preparation that goes into any conversation, right? So understanding who are the people who are going to be impacted by your decision or by your action. What are they thinking? What are their fears? What are their concerns? And so really being able to almost step into your audience's shoes, understanding, having awareness, checking where you might have some bias, checking where you might even have some resistance based on that, and doing that work before you ever have a conversation. And I know you've probably seen this, Brian. I definitely see this in the work that I do. You can teach a skill, right? You can teach someone how to smile and dial or whatever, right? And if their mindset, if inside they're thinking it to themselves, like, I can't do this, I don't have what it takes, no one's going to hear what I need to say, then it doesn't matter how great the strategy or the skill set that you're teaching is. If they don't believe that they are the ones who can carry it out, it'll naturally sabotage.
Yeah. Let me ask you a tough question, Sabine, because what I'm hearing you say is that to have the right mindset, you've got to really put yourself in a place of having empathy for other people. And I love what you said about putting yourself into their shoes. Again, same strategy mindset that we would have with selling externally to prospects, but now we're talking internally. What's a mindset or what's an attitude we would have to making it to where the other person doesn't feel like we're self-seeking or trying to be manipulative in nature? I mean, anything that, you would add in that as far as what the mindset or the attitude is to avoid putting off that energy?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I leverage Stephen Covey's from his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, deposits and withdrawals. Right. And so that's all about being understanding that you're going to give before you ask. That mindset in and of itself is a game changer, because if you're going into a conversation and you're only thinking about what you can get out of it and you're just going in to take, that's going to resonate. People are going to feel that. So if you're having a mindset of, I'm here to serve this other person, or I'm here to give to this other person, or I'm here to be curious about what this other person's need is, that mindset in and of itself differentiates or separates you from someone who is just going in to take. So I think it's foundationally around not just what do you want to get out of this, and I'll repeat the with them, stepping into the other person's shoes and saying, okay, if I were this person, what would I need? What would I want? What would help me feel valuable? And then approaching that conversation from a genuine place. And if you don't know what the answer to those questions are, that's a perfect space to go in with curiosity and asking questions that would help you uncover that.
Great stuff. And before we get into the behavior, I'll just add a thought to what you just said, which is that one of the differences to selling internally, forgive me for using the word selling, the 4-letter word, or not 4-letter words, but basically a 4-letter word, is that internally you're going to have to see these people again. These are the people. This is your family. This is your company. So you're going to need to live to fight another day for sure. I mean, the same is true for our prospects, but it's especially true for influencing people internally. So, something that I think I might keep on my mind is that, what? This is ultimately their decision, and I need to respect whatever their decision is, even if they don't agree with me. And the way that I handle that with dignity and grace and understanding and empathy might be precisely what helps me with brokering another conversation in the future with that person. That might be something that would help me with remaining somewhat detached from the outcomes and enable me to maybe not come off as being self-seeking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, total sense. Sense.
Good stuff. So let's talk about behavior. I was curious what you were going to say to the behavior piece of the BAT acronym. What are your thoughts on what are the behaviors that people need to do to best, accomplish this thing of internal influence?
Yeah. And so I will credit my time in corporate for this, and especially this one company that was very hierarchical, and they had very specific culture in the ways that they do things. Like, you did not just go into a meeting and just sit there without being prepared. Like, I mean, it's probably overkill in retrospect, but it conditioned you to know who is your audience up front, right? So identifying who might be your champions, who might be your challengers, who are the gatekeepers. And so especially certain meetings, and not a regular team meeting, but certain meetings where you were bringing forward a new initiative, like I didn't just go into that meeting hoping that the people there would see my vision and, rah, rah, and go on board. I took the time to understand, well, who's in the room? Who might be the one person who, sees this change as too much, who will challenge in that room? How do I get them on my side? How do I understand, again, what is there with them? Who are the people who will be my champions? And how do I ensure that before I go into that meeting, I'm doing a pre-meeting that says, hey, and I'm just going to use the name Melissa. Hey, Melissa, this is what I'm going to be presenting. We've talked about this before. If something comes up, do I have your support in it? Right. And so being very strategic, even before you even open your mouth around that. And then who are the gatekeepers? Who are the people that that maybe they're on the fence, right? So you can figure out how to incorporate something in your presentation that will speak to them, that will align to them, so that if needed, they can come on your side. So, this goes back to the mindset too, but it's just like, what is the prep work that you need to do so that you're showing up and you have other individuals that you either are going to support you, or if they're going to challenge you, you can, preemptively get in front of that.
So what you're saying is that winging it is not a good idea, right?
No, not when it's important.
Sales professionals, you don't need more theory. You need transformation that drives performance. At Sandler, we go beyond the book. Our psychology-based selling system, backed by behavioral science and 50-plus years of proven success, gives your team data-driven tools and a reinforcement strategy that ensures lasting change. See it firsthand. Crash a class today. Visit sandler.com/podcast. That's sandler.com/podcast. Sandler. Built for sales professionals who demand results.
But we like to ask our prospects whether or not their sales teams are winging it. Generally speaking, winging it is not a good thing in our world. Fair? It's funny that you say this, because it's synergistic with a conversation I had with a client right before this. And it's interesting. This company sells into the HR space. And oftentimes these HR folks, company's name is Give River. Won't get into the details of what they do, but they sell into the HR space. And the HR people then need to go talk to the CEO, business owner, stakeholder, which is, they need to choose their battles. You have to.
Yeah.
The comment that we made during that conversation was that the mere fact that the HR person was prepared or is prepared sort of sends a message to the CEO that this person has done diligence, they've put pen to paper, they've done math. And if they've done that, you know what? I don't even have to hear it. It's important enough to consider. It's important enough to have a conversation about, just because of the conviction that I see in the preparation that they put forth. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. And I would also say that speaks to that person has always been that way, right? So, you don't get that type of credibility or that trust if it's the first time that you're doing that, right? So I think that all of this builds on each other. How are you showing up on a regular basis? Are you the person who's always winging it? And then the one time you've done the work, like you're expecting people to come behind you, that tells me in that situation that you're talking about, that this is someone who has always shown up that way. They have a reputation for when they are serious about something, this is how they're going to come up. And that builds over time. I think the other thing too is if you think about, your networks, right, within your organizations, what I notice is that very few people take the time to build these true connections internally that allow them to even identify who their champions are, or who might be the connectors or the bridges and the gatekeepers. And so it probably sounds like a lot of work when you're trying to get something through, but if you've been doing it consistently the entire time, then it becomes a no-brainer when you go to someone or when you present an opportunity or an initiative.
Yeah. And I know that I sound like maybe an old guy when I say this, but that new website, ChatGPT, that just came out recently. It's incredibly helpful for learning a bit about other people's worlds that are in different departments, maybe other than your own, that maybe you're not privy to what their priorities are.
Right. And I know Sandler uses DISC, right? Like
Right.
that's a great tool. And there are a lot of different ways that you can just identify, is this person a high D? I need to go in there and I need to be really quick with my details, or not give details, but really quick with my bullet points. If this person is a C, right, I need to add a little bit more detail into that. And so again, the prep work eliminates a lot of the resistance that you might have to deal with.
Well said. Well said. Love it. Love it. Love that disc talk. Absolutely. Well done. So let's talk about the technique. I'm super excited to hear this. So, and I feel like we have a good acronym coming, which I think it's been too long since I heard the last one. So, what would be a technique that you could impart upon this audience that can help them with influencing people internally?
Yeah, so it's two ways, right? So not only are you influencing the people internally, but you're also influencing whoever is the benefactor of whatever that thing is, right? And so the acronym that Brian is mentioning here is the ACT method. And so basically A stands for align, right? Make sure that you are aligned, or everyone is aligned on the why behind it. It's one thing to say, to go into a meeting and say, hey, customer wants this, and so we need to add that to the scope of work, right? But thinking clearly of like, okay, well, why does the customer want that? What is the added value to the customer? And then what is the added value to us as an organization if we move towards that? So doing a little bit of the work to figure out what is the why behind that. Then the communication, right? So that's the WIFM. If you're going to present something that maybe is out of scope, or maybe requires a little bit more work, legwork, whatever that looks like, you want to think about the person who's hearing this. What is the WIFM for them? How are they going to hear this, see the benefit to the organization, see the additional value? Maybe it's long-term customer value. Maybe it's increasing revenue. Maybe it's increasing customer service. Whatever that looks like, you want to be clear on what that is so that you can communicate that. And then the last one is T for translate. And so with translate, this goes back to what we've been talking about. Think win-win. If you understand what it is that the customer wants, or the client wants, or whoever the benefactor is, and what's happening internally, you can align on the why. Then you're able to then communicate the WIFM, the benefits for both sides. Now your responsibility is to help connect those dots so that everyone can see that if this happens, A, then it results in B, and then it supports us in C, and then maybe long-term, this is what the thing might be. And so it's about positioning. It's about being clear. It's about, being able to bridge, if you will, wants and needs and desires from both sides in a way that is integrous and authentic, and really does serve all parties, including yourself, especially as the salesperson. I mean, I obviously have to do sales for my business. Like, it has to make sense for my client, the sponsor, all of the people, and it has to make sense for me too.
You know what? I think you did a great job of explaining that. And I can appreciate how hard it is to explain something that you could probably do a 60-minute session on in less than 2 minutes, right? What I'm hearing you say, though, ACT, first, you got to make sure in your preparation that you are aligning what you want to do with what their priorities and goals are. Two, you need to communicate that and plan on how to communicate that to them. And three, translate. Is that what you said? Translate, right?
Yeah, translate. Yep.
Translate to make sure that you connect the dots for them. Now, here's the question. How do you, or do you have any thoughts on how you confirm that they understand it? Because one of the things I notice in all forms of sales, and it's communication, again, whether it be external and internal, that there's assumptions made that person's going to understand what I'm saying, or that person understands what I'm saying. How do you ensure that you have translated the value proposition clearly?
Can you give me a specific example?
Yeah, well, just in general, I'm having a conversation with somebody. And what I love about what we do, Sabine, is that a lot of what we do applies to people both professionally and personally. Again, I mean, it's just communication.
Right.
So any thoughts on just in general, if we were to even like take it a step back, how do people better ensure that the people that they're talking to understand the value proposition of what they're saying? Or, what does that make sense?
It does. Okay. So if I take a general example, so I'll use me and a client, right? And my going through this process on the sales side. So I'm having a discovery call with a client, and they want to bring me in because they're having a retreat, right? And so on the surface, oh wow, you're having a retreat. Great. Tell me what's going on. What is the purpose of this retreat? What are you hoping to get out of this retreat? If this retreat is successful, what will that look like? What impact will that have on, the people, the team, whatever that looks like? Then as I'm building the thing, I'm understanding not just the surface level thing that they're trying to accomplish, but 30 days out or however long after this thing is long done, like the pen is, or the ink has been cleared out, right? Mm-hmm. This is what they want to see. And so I am thinking from the perspective of, I have to create this thing that allows them to see that end goal that they've just told me is important is actually possible. And then when I go to present and do this workshop, I'm incorporating the pieces of what they've told me that they want the end goal in seeding it. And so when I think about that in relation to like in general, it's really just, I think it's going to sound elementary if I say asking the right questions, but it really is asking the right questions, like not accepting the surface level, getting really, really curious on the WIFM, getting really, really curious on what the emotion, what the outcome, what the thing is that they're really after, because most of the time they're not really after, more sales. They're not really after whatever that thing is that they present, doing the work to figuring that out. And so that's how this ACT method plays into. If you're able to uncover those things in the beginning, everything you build on top of that is going to answer that and then continue to build that trust with that person.
If for those who are listening who are very familiar with the Sandler methodology, they're getting a big kick out of the last 60 to 120 seconds, because what you just said so much mirrored our own process. So thank you, because that was a really interesting answer. And one of the things you said towards the end was asking questions. It's so simple. But the other thing that I really cued in on is that we have to sometimes stay focused on the main thing, and that main thing being what's the end goal, and making sure that the end goal is something that we're all in alignment with, that it's equally important to me as it is you. Fair?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes in doing that work of asking the questions, you realize I won't be able to get you that thing. And so that's an opportunity to either bring that up, renegotiate what that looks like, or at that point, leave the relationship in a way that is respectful and also opens the door for future opportunities.
Well said. Well said. Well, listen, I think that you've done a great job of hitting BAT, behaviors, attitude, and technique, as it relates to influencing people internally. Sabine, I want to thank you very much for coming onto this podcast. I have one question that you're not prepared for, and that's intentional. I'm going to try to lighten the mood here, but let's pretend you're walking into Baskin Robbins. There's 31 flavors. What's the flavor that Sabine goes with?
The Cherry Garcia.
Oh, come on, man. Yes. Cherry Garcia. That's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know.
You can't go wrong.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. And to everybody listening, thank you for listening to the How to Succeed podcast. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great day, a great week, and happy selling.
The How to Succeed podcast is copyrighted by Sandler Systems, LLC, and protected by U.S. copyright laws. For more information on Sandler services, please consult with your local Sandler trainer or visit www.sandler.com.